Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing okay. It's Connor here. As I switch the engine off on a very it's a bit cold this morning, Sunday morning. Thought I'd get you guys a little bit of a review out. It's sort of morning after the night before, really, and yeah, reading a few of your comments, reading a few of the Leeds fan reaction. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to see the difference, really, in points of views. I'm sort of exactly the same as I was yesterday with regards to Leeds' performance and the result. And it's interesting how I think because of the Southampton and Leicester results, the mood has changed a little bit. And I do remember this at the back end of last season when Leeds were losing games or we weren't getting the right result, notoriously losing games. If other teams had lost, the whole opinion and mentality with Leeds was very, very different to what it was if those teams would have won. Obviously, it wasn't really focused on the Leeds performance for me. It was focused on what others were doing. And I get that to an extent, but I also think you've got to look at what's going on with the dynamics, the fluidity, the makeup of this side. Now, is this makeup going to be how Leeds are going to go through the season? Probably not. There's going to be an influence of Glenn Kamara, Jed Spence. There's also going to be influence of Gruev and also players coming back, Bamford, Cooper. They are going to feature at some point in this Leeds United setup. So they're all factors that you need to take into consideration. But I always try to look back at the videos that I make as an instant match reaction. And sometimes I disagree with what I was saying. It's instant match reaction. And sometimes I agree with it. But I'm really not of a different position. I thought yesterday was really poor. I was a little bit confused with many aspects of it, really, and the overall sort of perception I've got with Leeds at the minute is, especially after yesterday and the Salford game as well, which is a very strong Leeds United 11, and even the Ipswich game, it's going to be a bit hit and miss for Leeds this season, or up until maybe January, February, and right at the very start of the season, I thought I sort of said this, and I was getting pelters for it because Leeds naturally have to be top two and winning the division by 60 points, according to some fans. But Leeds are always going to have this problem with obviously the amount of players that have gone out, the amount of players that have come in, and making that gel, making that work, but also having those relationships forge, that synergy and that cohesiveness within the ranks really becoming a thing which is going to make us a force in this division. I think at the minute it's still brooding. It's still, you can tell it's not there yet. And hopefully at some point in this, how long have we got left? Like 41, 42 game seasons, we're going to see that flourish a little bit and we're going to see that really be a thing. Now, I think what I was trying to illustrate yesterday was the makeup of the squad at the minute and why I sort of wanted a left back. I don't really get the fullbacks at the minute. You'll consistently now see Leeds pushing the two fullbacks high, which has been interesting. And against Ipswich, you'd see them leave at points Wes Burns and Connor Chaplin as sort of a front two at points when Leeds were in the transition, and we'd push our fullbacks forward and they'd straight away hit us with that long ball. Ipswich are a little bit more playing through Sam Morsey, but at points they'd play it long, they'd try, change it up, and they did that in the second half. Now, the issue when you've got two fullbacks going forward, like Jamie Shackleton and Luke Ayling, is their recovery, especially when it comes to their recovery in the tackle, isn't very good. And I don't know what these two are good at. Jed Spence, I can tell you, he's a very, very good 1v1 defender and he's very good going forward. Hence why everybody was buzzing with him yesterday when he came on for 10 minutes, which was strange in itself and was very puzzling from Daniel Farke. But you can tell, especially with the block, which was a real example of if Jed Spence pushes high, he's able to get back, his recovery pace is very good, his interception rate is very, very good when you look at his time at Rennes, Tottenham and especially Forest. And you can see when Spence pushes up, he's very, very good going forward, but defensively he's excellent as well. Luke Ayling has no real attributes anymore. He's a player who will run forward and give the option of an overlap, but the final third when it comes to Luke Ayling is naturally 99% of the time poor. It's either overhit, it's underhit, or scuff. Now, Jamie Shackleton was the exact same yesterday. He's getting a lot of plaudits from Leeds fans, which I did find a little bit confusing. I think it's just, Jamie Shackleton had the ball for long periods of time, and maybe the focus was on him a little bit more. But Jamie was trying to make those overlapping runs, but I feel a lot of his sort of go-to yesterday was essentially give the ball to Nonto, and we'll see what happens. And I felt that was a lot of it for the game, really. You had Somerville, you had Nonto, sort of picking out those exact same things. It was essentially just give the ball to me and I'll try do something with it. And I felt Shackleton was very much like that. And he's not a fullback. We know he's not a fullback, but we know he's now going to be utilised as a left back because obviously we weren't able to dip into the market for that profile of player. So the whole point is here, transitionally, they're going to get hit on a little bit. And that's going to cause a few problems for Rodon and Strauch throughout the season, unless Spence comes in. But then you're still going to have the balance of Shackleton bit on that side, and probably even Byram on that side. To be fair, even though Byram, I think he's a better footballer than Shackleton. But you're also getting at a point now where when both are going forward, it's very lacklustre, and they're not really giving Leeds enough options in the final third. I think the dynamic of Perot and Rutter is going to be really, really interesting. I think what I would like from someone like Rutter is for him to come and get the ball. The issue with what you're getting now is Rutter isn't the sort of player to play off the last man, right? He's not the player to play off the last man. You can see that his runs, he barely beats the offside trap ever. And I think he's not a very. I don't think his game is circulated around being that last man, that striker on the last man. I think it is dropping deep, getting the ball. And the problem is with facilitating that, you can't now do that because of Yoel Perot. Because Perot, which I don't know if people maybe missed this when we bought him, we tried to cover it on the channel multiple times, but he's a number 10. He's the most number 10 striker you're ever going to see. I mean, there were points yesterday where he's 1-2ing Jamie Shackleton in a left-back space. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this is going to develop. But Perot and Rutter as a front two, I like them in terms of technical ability, but I think you get the best from Rutter when he comes and tries to collect the ball and drives forward and utilise a lot of those 1-2s. But Yoel Perot is evidently a number 10. Are a very, very, very drop-deep striker. And I think yesterday there was multiple times where Leeds even had the ball on the flanks, ready to cross the ball in, and Perot's nowhere to be seen. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. I think the risks for Leeds have got to get a little bit greater at Ellen Road, as in getting the ball and trying to make those passes through the lines and break the lines from central defensive midfield. And I think Archie's very, very comfortable on the ball and technically a very able player. But I think yesterday in particular, he's not playing the balls through the lines enough. And I think that's what's hurting Leeds as well, because you're actually getting a lot of offensive players showing for the ball. Archie's not cutting the ball through the lines, and Ethan wasn't doing that yesterday either, and that was the problem. And listen, it was all dictated as well by the crowd. You could hear the crowd groaning. They were not happy with what they were seeing. And I'm really just a little bit confused, and I'm trying to talk about it tactically a little bit and how Leeds are going to evolve going forward. And I think Jed Spence obviously got to come in. Glenn Kamara and Gruev's going to be interested in this system. Can they break the lines a little bit? I don't really see Kamara as that type of player in terms of constantly breaking the lines, getting forward. Gruev maybe can do that with his passing from deep and breaking the lines that way, but we really need someone who's going to get that ball deep and start to break those lines a little bit more quicker as well. We were not sharp, we were not incisive yesterday, and this is against a team who, if they'd have lost yesterday, would have broken a championship record in terms of losing that. I think it was their 5 opening games. So their expected goals is the lowest in the division. They still had a couple of chances in transitional moments. Patterson was the obvious one where he should have scored. And listen, yeah, Leeds did create a number of chances, but I mentioned Sinisterra a lot yesterday, and people kept saying, forget him, Connor, he's moved on. It's not the point of mentioning Sinisterra. It's the point of him just being that quality glue. He was that composure to really knit that group together up top, because they're all kids. A lot of them are kids, and people are forgetting that. They think they're seasoned vets. They're not. They're children still playing up front for Leeds United, barely advancing the age of 20 years of age. So yeah, it's going to take time, this. It's going to take time. There are going to be losses. There are going to be wins along the way. And I think as a fan base, as a collective, it's proper to understand the fact that Leeds are going to be a bit hit and miss this season. And maybe it's going to gather a little bit of momentum in terms of when the squad's back to full fitness, and I think that will happen, hopefully. I mean, I did predict that. I did predict that hopefully it's going to get to that point where, you know, we're going to make a little bit of a charge towards the back end of the season. I know we're 4 points off to the top 6 right now, but I do think you're going to get a lot of these teams now coming to Ellen Road, seeing a Salford blueprint, seeing a Sheffield Wednesday blueprint, and really just copying that. And then it's up to Leeds United. Can Ampadu be more incisive? Can he break the lines a little bit? Can Archie do that? Can Gruev do that? Can Kamara do that? Can we get more 1-2s in short spaces? Can we get that relationship between Rutter and Perot right? Because I thought it worked quite well against Ipswich, but yesterday it was completely off. Completely off. I felt they were getting in each other's ways at points, and when, you know, you're looking at Rutter to be that number 9 off the last man, you're looking at Perot to be the number 9 off the last man, and that is Rutter, and that's just not Rutter's game. Rutter's much, much better when you see him dropping deep and playing those 1-2s with the inverted wingers. You saw that yesterday a couple of times with Somerville in particular. But we've got to be a little bit more risk. We've got to use and utilise a little bit more risk, I think. And I think if you're looking at the 2 games, Ipswich, we were doing that a lot, but then you're looking at Sinisterra been involved in that fold as well, and really influencing that game as well. And I mean, he was excellent. He was the best player on the pitch, wasn't he? So it's replacing him. Jaden Anthony as well is going to obviously be an interesting figure in this side. Is he going to come in and be a mould of an Onso, a mould of Somerville? Because if he is, that could be a little bit problematic. We need almost a player who's going to be able to be a little bit calm, a little bit composed, and really knit that group together. I keep saying that, but it is true. It really is true. And yeah, there is a lot to sort out. And when we are in those moments where we're not able to break through, which I think is going to happen. I mean, we saw it with Bielsa a number of times, but I think we're going to see it with Farker as well. We're a demoted team. Opposition are going to come to Leeds and waste time from the 14th, 15th minute, which we saw. We've got to really have centre-backs as well. When you've got the full-backs pushing up, who are really able to concentrate in those transitional moments. We got a clean sheet, but I did think at points, Rodon in particular was a little bit shaky. But as I say, I guess that is a positive that you can take from it, the fact that we got a clean sheet. I'm just not of the mindset of giving out plaudits when it's against a hideous side going forward. You know, I think they're the lowest scorers in the league, lowest XG in the league. No creative output whatsoever, and the main threat is Patterson, who's a right back and is woeful. So I'm really struggling to take that as a positive. The positive for me is we saw Jaden Anthony at the end. The positive for me is we saw Jed Spence on the pitch, and we can already tell he's one of the best players. The positive for me is that Glenn Kamara got some minutes, but we're going to have to see a lot more, especially if there's certain people and everyone clamouring for top 2. Because top 2, if you're looking back at the end of the season saying that a relegated team came to Ellen Road and drew 0-0, and obviously Cardiff managed to get a point as well. They're probably going to finish bottom 4, bottom 5. We need to start winning these games, and consistently, if we are to make that top 2, especially even that top 6. I know we're only 4 points off, but doesn't matter really, does it? You need to be winning games to get into that top 6 and consistently be there. As I say, the good things are that Leicester and Southampton lost, but you know they've also won a lot more games than we have, so you've got to balance it out really. But guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think I've been too harsh? A lot of people were saying I was being harsh yesterday. I didn't really see it that way. I do take into consideration that it is a Yorkshire derby, but I think that's one we should have been winning yesterday, and it's very, very disappointing. Let me know what you think, everyone. I'll see you in a bit.